येषां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि।
Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam or KYG. For the next class in the Yoga Sutras, we learn this in the premises of a very old temple. It is called BrahmaNandeeshwar Temple, a temple that is more than 1500 years old. The portal itself is God knows how old. There is a very beautiful shrine, a serene, magnificent Shiva in this temple. More of this temple in another video. In this class we shall learn Sutra 11, the fifth of the 5 types of Vrittis that Patanjali enumerated earlier. This Vritti is about memory. And the sutra goes like this: anubhūtaviṣaya-asampramoṣaḥ smṛti. In the sutra he defines what is smṛti. Smṛti means memory. And he defines it: anubhūtaviṣaya-asampramoṣaḥ smṛti. Anubhūta viṣaya. Anubhūta is experience. Viṣaya is the object. So the experience of an object, anubhūta viṣaya, asaṃpramoṣaḥ. Asaṃpramoṣaḥ means that which is not lost, that which is not stolen, one could say. Saṃpramoṣaḥ is that which is lost. Asaṃpramoṣaḥ is that which is not lost. Memory is something which is not lost, right? So the experience of an object, anubhūta viṣaya, asaṃpramoṣaḥ, that which is not lost, is memory, is smṛti. Vyasa brings to light 3 salient points in his commentary, and I would like to share that with you. The first thing that he points out is, in helping us understand this idea of memory, he says, so what is memory? Is it the memory of an object, or is it your memory of the knowledge of that object? Now what does that mean? Behind me is a very beautiful Shiva Lingam. God knows worshipped by which saint or sage, or what was the occasion of its installation. All these are 2000 years plus. Nevertheless, if I go back a week later from now, a year later from now, I close my eyes, I'm able to bring back the memory of this lingam back into my consciousness. So what is it that comes into my consciousness? Memory. What is it that comes into my memory? The object, or my knowledge of this object? In other words, right now I am aware of this lingam because I saw it. So my awareness is stored in memory. Awareness of what? The lingam is stored in the memory. So Vyasa makes it clear that memory is both an object that is stored, but also your awareness of the object. Without either of these, memory is incomplete, and therefore it cannot be called memory. There won't be a memory. For example, in the same instance, if I were to pass by and I miss seeing this lingam, this Shiva Linga that is behind me, I miss it, I don't see it. When I don't see it, I have not created an awareness of this object. And because my awareness is not there, the object itself will be missing in my memory. So if I go to this temple, I've gone everywhere, I looked around, and I go back home, and a year later I think of this temple, this Shivalingam will not be in my memory because there was no awareness of this lingam in the first place. This is perhaps a very simple known fact, but I like it when things are spelt out. It makes us things become more aware. So Vyasa makes it clear that memory is not simply of an object, but your awareness of that object. By object, I mean experience as well. So an experience that comes by me and my awareness of that experience is what creates the memory. So that is the first one. The second feature that he points out, and he asks us, actually these are by questions that he asks and he explains it. The second feature, he says, is our memories created only from awakened state, from real experiences. In this case, real is quote unquote within this dimension of our senses. So our memory is created only from awakened state or real objects, he asks. The answer is, of course, yes. There is also another state he points out, but this is simply a very straightforward thing. I am awake, I am aware of everything I am seeing, I am listening, and all of these have great potential to become my memory, correct? I listen to a beautiful song, I hold it in my memory, I recollect the memory of my listening to that song, and therefore the song comes in and my recollection of hearing that song both comes in into my memory. And so is the case with touch, with taste, with sight, and all of that. So when I am awake, it's easy to form memories, and these are memories of quote unquote real experiences, the experiences that come in our Jagrat state, awakened state. All right, what is the other one? Vyasa points out that memories can also be created out of imagined objects. What does that mean? A very simple example he points out is dream. Dreams are imaginations. They are culled from stored experiences. That's besides the point. But dream itself is an imagination. Like for instance, last night, after a lot of meditation, when I went to sleep, I dreamt I was slitting the throat of a demon. There must be some vasana which I'm eliminating. I don't know, but I woke up with a little with some sweat because it was a very horrible sight. Where did that come from? That experience was an imagination in my subconscious mind that revealed itself to me. But that is a memory now stored in me, in my chitta. And therefore, memories can be also formed out of imagined states or imagined objects. So you have, this was the second point that Vyasa pointed out, that memories can be from awakened state to a large extent, but also from dream state we can form memories. And the third one he points out, I think it's a very valuable point, which made me think. And so I will start this with a question. While listing out the Vrittis, Patanjali mentions smṛti as last. Why? See, they are very careful about how do they list it and what kind of order they list. If somebody is as mindful as Patanjali would list, it wouldn't be something done in random. So there is a reason why he listed smṛti in the last, towards the end. Because as Vyasa points out, smṛti or memory holds all the vrittis that we talked about earlier. Memories of all vrittis that we talked about earlier. The first one that we talked about was pramana. In that pramana, which is direct cognition of senses, we talked of direct perception, we talked of inference, we talked of testimonial from others. Can all these be memories? Of course they can be. The story I heard from my grandmother was a testimony, but I remember that story of Hanuman, and I remember when I was a 3-year-old listening to that. So that is a memory stored. That was pratyaksha, anumana and agama. Then comes the next one, that is inference. Whatever I infer, I see the smoke on the hilltop, I infer that there is a fire there, and I change my plans of going to that hill. All of that is stored in my memory. So that is also stored in my memory. Imagination is the next one. Can imaginations be stored? We just saw as dream is a form of imagination. That can also be stored. Can sleep be stored in memory? Of course. You remember 2 days ago whether you slept well or you didn't sleep well. Short term, long term memories, all of that are classifications of memory, but at this point they are all stored. So memory is something that contains all of this. It's kind of a very important vritti, which is why earlier when we discussed the chitta, I said the chitta is a virtual basket of mind and all of the senses, information that's coming through the mind. Then you have the discrimination, the intellect that discriminates this knowledge, that discerns what is important, what is not important, the analytical part of it, the intuitive part of it that we call the buddhi, the I-ness in us, which we call the ahankara. And then I said the another chitta that is also part of the big chitta, right? That little chitta is basically memory, but memory not as an isolated thing, but memory because that memory contains memories of all the vrittis that we are constantly experiencing. And so when we recollect something, it brings us back, brings that experience back into focus. One thing I want to leave you with here in connection with all of this, because in his commentary Vyasa used the word samskar, and that got me thinking, so I just want to share those thoughts with you as well. Please let me know what you think about this. He says samskar is one form of memory. When he talked about awareness of object and awareness of object and the object, he said that is how samskara is formed. Samskara is merely an impression, right? Like a vritti. Samskara is one kind of a vritti that becomes a memory, correct? So he says that is how samskara is formed in us, and that samskara is recalled. I like a mango, that is an awareness because I tasted a mango once and I liked it, that memory is there, it forms a samskara in my chitta. And I am bringing this idea of samskara and things because for those of us who use these, it helps us become more clearer. Along with samskaras, there is another twin that comes along with it when we talk about samskaras, and they are vasanas. Now, Vyasa did not talk about vasanas. He just mentioned the word samskara, so that got me thinking, and I am sharing my thoughts. What are vasanas? The popular opinion is samskaras are good, vasanas are bad. Popularly, generally when we talk in colloquial terms. That may not be true. The way I understand that is, and all of these are part of this memory we are talking about. Samskara is an impression that is formed when I gain an experience. Now, if that samskara repeatedly gets impressed on my subconscious mind as a memory, repeatedly that memory gets reinforced again and again and again and again and again, then what happens is that becomes a powerful force that could trigger a pattern of behavior in me. That is called a vasana. A vasana is merely a samskara that has repeated itself so often that it triggers a trait, a behavioral pattern in the person. So, vasana is simply a repetition of samskaras. It is like a neural path that is finally formed in the brain, a habit that is formed in the brain. If I, for example, if I take a sweet after dinner, one odd day I just decide to take a sweet, it could be anything. It could be a simple chocolate I had, or a laddu, if you will, something I ate, a sweet. I liked it, I liked the experience, so a samskara is created in my mind. Now the next day again I eat, and then I say, hey, you know what, yesterday I had a sweet, it was a nice experience, so I look around for one more sweet. It may not be the same one, but nevertheless I bring another kind of sweet and I eat it. And thus I go on every day. When that memory of that sweet after dinner comes, a dessert after dinner comes, I start looking around. So what happens is, after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, a week later, I am constantly reinforcing that initial samskara by repeating that action again and again. That memory comes to me and I entertain that memory, I follow that into action, I eat another sweet, and so after about, let's say, 48 days, 48 days is one mandala. A habit can be formed in 48 days, a habit can be broken in 48 days. So I complete a whole mandala, 48 days of eating dessert after dinner. What happens? Then a neural path begins to form. A habit is begin to form. A vasana is created. Any repeated patterns of samskara in the subconscious becomes a vasana. A vasana is more difficult to change, a little more difficult than samskara. It's not impossible, but it is difficult to change. And these are the vasanas which are deeply formed in our unconscious, that we believe, some of us, that we carry it across lifetimes. And that is why when even twins are raised in a family in exactly the same surroundings, they develop two different and complete behavioral patterns. It is believed that it is those samskaras that they bring into this life, and the vasanas especially, that cause their intrinsic behavior. All of that is part of memory. Patanjali gives us an idea of what vrittis constantly are formed in the chitta. And like I said earlier, it is not vrittis on the chitta, but chitta and vrittis together create an idea of reality. False or real, it really doesn't matter. At that moment I think of God, I become God. At that moment. So don't wait to experience divinity. At that moment, open your heart, experience divinity. You may not be able to label it, you may not be able to say, so what is divine experience? Open, empty yourself from all this memory. Preconditioned mind is nothing but a collection of memories of what I read, what did this person say, what did that person say. All of that has become, I have conditioned my mind. If I am able to, in my meditation, drop all those conditions, free my chitta of vrittis, especially smṛti, memory, then what happens is I have a chance to enter into ekagra, one-pointedness, and then a chance to experience nirodha. I always believe that when these teachers taught, they made it very clear that it is not easy, but never have they ever said that it is impossible. And never once has it ever been written or said that these kind of experiences lie in an afterlife or after your death. So let us know that these are definite possibilities in our lifetime before we die. And that is why this is such a precious gift. Anubhūtaviṣaya-asampramoṣaḥ smṛti. Let us hold this in our thought as I take leave of you. As always, thank you for giving me this opportunity in this beautiful premises where Brahma, where Nandishwara, all of them many, many yugas ago, many thousands of years ago, have done penance and worshipped this beautiful, magnificent Shivalinga. Until we meet again in the next class, stay blessed, stay inspired. Namaste.
क्लीं कैवल्ययोगगुरुकुलम्